Welcome to Good Money Moves, the show where we share financial tips and advice to help you feel financially empowered. I'm Jenna Taubel, AVP of Marketing here at First Alliance Credit Union, and joining me today is our President and CEO, Brent Rempe. He's back to talk about maybe the most important topic we could talk about, in my opinion, and that's why credit unions are so important and also, in my opinion, way better than banks. So we're here to talk about it, credit unions versus banks. Before we dive into that though, Brent, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being here. Why don't you just tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what does the president and CEO of a credit union even do?
Great. Well, thank you, Jenna. Appreciate you having me back on the podcast. Thank you for having me. Really excited to talk about today's topic because, as you can tell by me wearing a ugly Christmas sweater in the summer, I love credit unions. And so as president and CEO, I've been here at First Alliance for about 3 years this month. Well, 3 years later on this month. And it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I love my job because as president and CEO of First Alliance, I feel like I can make a huge impact in our community, in the lives of our members, and in the lives of our employees. And yeah, so a little bit about myself. I've been in the credit union system now for about 12 years. Was in educational leadership before that. And in credit union space, have worked in lending, marketing, and education, and now as president and CEO.
Awesome. Well, let's just dive right in. What is the difference between a credit union and a bank and kind of the structure behind that truly makes them different? Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, most banks are going to be owned by investors, and those investors either in a publicly traded company through Wall Street, through being traded on a stock market. Some of the larger institutions and national banks, some more regional or community banks are going to be owned maybe by families, but typically banks are owned by investors, and investors want profit. They want to make a profit, and they want to get some kind of capital gain on their investment in the bank. Yeah. Credit unions, on the other hand, are usually locally owned financial institutions. They are, regardless of size, are owned by their members, and so it's a cooperative, structured as a cooperative, and the credit union members actually serve as our governing body, our board of directors.
Yeah, awesome. Great explanation. So you talked a little bit about the word cooperative, and I think a lot of people maybe, if you think of a cooperative, a lot of people probably think of like co-op, right, but it's also a not-for-profit. So talk a little bit about how credit unions' not-for-profit status makes a difference in how credit unions are run, and really how does that play out when it comes down to what the members experience and see day to day?
Certainly. So a bank, to juxtapose not-for-profit, a bank is for-profit, whereas a local charity or nonprofit organizations could be that nonprofit status under 501c3 under the IRS status. Credit unions exist somewhere in between. So as a cooperative, we are a not-for-profit. And what that means, we still need to generate a profit because in order to grow, we need to have essentially capital, which is, I like to call our long-term savings account. Resources. We need resources, exactly. Yeah. So we put that in like a rainy day fund for later on. So we need that profit to grow. But oftentimes, credit unions do sacrifice profit in order to give back to the members through things like higher rates on savings accounts, lower rates on loans, and also giving back to the community in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, I mean, when you're kind of talking about that, some of the everyday benefits that somebody would see if they choose a credit union as their primary financial institution really comes down to growing your wealth through those savings rates and having less money out of your pocket through those lower loan rates. And then from the community aspect, you talk about local, all of our employees are local, the money stays local that we give back to the community. So it really is helping kind of our local ecosystem, which in turn helps you as the member be more financially sound in the long term because we're putting those resources back into the economy locally. That's going to help.
Yeah, I'd like to say credit unions, especially here at First Alliance, we're a community and economic development organization that happens to offer financial services.
Yeah, and I love that definition, by the way. I think that's a great way to explain the difference of a credit union versus a bank. let's talk a little bit about, kind of take a step back and talk a little bit about one of the myths I think that a lot of people have about credit unions is they maybe aren't as innovative, or they don't have access to the same level of technology as like a large, bank, or some of the fintechs out there, right, that are doing some, app-based banking and things like that. So talk a little bit about how that's not necessarily true in credit unions, and you may just see that innovation and technology show up in different ways.
Certainly. I think here at First Alliance specifically, we do have a mobile app. We have Greenlight, which we partner with a fintech to offer children's debit cards in a way that parents have a little more control than a typical debit card. Additionally, we invest in our kiosks, so our advisor-supported kiosks as a technology, really trying to balance high tech and high touch.
Yeah.
I do think also some of that innovation comes in a smaller community-based organization. We're empowering our employees specifically to innovate.
Yeah.
So our employees can make decisions at the local level. Or trying to empower our employees and push decision making down as low as we can in a way that balances our safety and soundness as taking a risk-based approach to balance decision making and bring it locally based.
Right. And I think, to your point about kind of pushing that decision making down, that means that our lenders have a little bit of say in how they're giving that service to our members. They have the opportunity to advocate for our members, whereas if you were in a much larger institution, a lot of times those lenders don't have that opportunity to advocate for the member that's sitting in front of them the same way.
Yeah, certainly. And I think that's true both larger banks. A lot of our banks have been purchased by out-of-area banks, and a lot of our credit unions are from out of the area too. So decisions are being made in the Dakotas, up in the cities, in Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
And so really, First Alliance, decision-making for lending is being made here in Greater Rochester.
Yeah, which you don't always think that that's going to make a difference, but it really does. When you have people who understand the economy and the challenges that are happening locally here, you can help people in a very different way than having kind of that flat, broad structure that you would get with much larger institutions, which they oftentimes have to do to manage scale. But, it does make a difference in the day-to-day, and I think you don't realize that until you've experienced it.
Certainly, and I think the shirt you're wearing, our value shirt, your sweatshirt, we show up, we listen to your story, and we provide possibilities. And being locally based, we're able to listen to our member stories in a way that I think is just really meaningful.
Yeah, I mean, it's the people helping people philosophy, right? We come back to that.
People helping people.
And just showing up, not just like in our day-to-day interactions, but even some of the products and services that we're able to offer and how we offer those. Can you talk a little bit about how people helping people kind of shows up in our product offering? Yeah,
certainly. The ones that come to mind, we have a no-hassle loan. So we at two levels, and I want to say there's a $1,000 level and a $2,500 level. So we want to avoid our members getting into the cycle of payday loans.
Yeah, predatory lending,
lending.
Which we just did a show on not that long ago. Yeah. So go back and watch that if you want to know what that's all about.
And so with that, we have a no-hassle loan, which is really easy based on your relationship with us. Very low levels of underwriting. We don't pull credit to offer the loan, but we do report the loan to credit. So that's really relationship-based based on your membership with us.
Yeah.
I think that's one unique product. Another unique product, and I go mostly to lending.
Yeah.
Another unique product is our manufactured home lending. We are the only institution that I'm aware of in our region that offers loans on a manufactured home in a manufactured home community versus on land owned by the borrower.
Right. And on the flip side of lending, I love our Wincentive Savings Account, which is a credit union specific savings account where you can have a chance to win cash prizes as you increase your balance in that savings account. And I've won one time But I just love that product. It is so much fun to just like, oh, am I going to be a winner this month? Or, who is going to be a winner? And just celebrating some of those big wins with our members is some of my favorite moments. We've had a couple $5,000 winners over the life of this program. And so I'm hoping we have another one this year, fingers crossed.
And what I love about Wincentive is it goes back to the credit union, one of the credit union principles of cooperation among cooperatives.
Yeah.
So Minnesota Credit Union Network is together we're participating in this pool with a lot of other credit unions as well.
Yeah.
And that level of cooperation you often don't see in for-profit bank institutions.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. There's a collaborative spirit amongst credit unions that you just don't see in a lot of other industries, quite frankly. Well, I'm going to pivot a little bit. I want to talk a little bit. At First Alliance, we talk a lot about making sure that we're helping people who are trying to get kind of a fresh start in life with their finances, or maybe just starting off for the first time with different finances. So can you talk a little bit about kind of how that mission to help our what we call First Start, Fresh Start members, it shows up in our core values?
Yeah, certainly. I think we alluded to it a little bit with listening to people's stories. So oftentimes, I think the First Start or Fresh Start member, either someone with no credit or someone with bruised credit, might not have that trust with the financial institution. And part of that is maybe through their experiences they've had in the past. Here at First Alliance, you kind of alluded to our team and our lenders and our underwriters really looking for ways to say yes. And if it can't be a yes now, it's a not yet. And so really also taking time to spend with our members coming in and applying for a loan specifically, listening to their story and providing guidance on how to get to maybe a yes later on.
Yeah, well, and part of that comes in with financial education and not just being like, no, you can't, come back later. It's no, not right now, and here's the steps you need to take. Let's educate you along the way on why it's a no and how do you get to that yes. So can you talk a little bit more about, truly the importance of financial education as a credit union, why we are so passionate about that, why we're doing this podcast right now, right? It's all kind of comes together that way.
Yeah, our credit union at the national level, credit unions at the national level really have this term called financial well-being for all. And the whole idea is we want to make an impact on our community, on our members, on our fellow citizens and community members. And we want people to be able to be financially well. So that financial well-being for all really begins with making sure people have a place to save money in a safe and meaningful, safe and sound fashion. And then additionally, a place where you're guided along the way.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of sits at the heart of almost why we exist to some degree. That love, that empowerment through education.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
So you'll be educated in, when you come to a loan, especially those First Start, Fresh Start members, we provide opportunities. Our staff will take time to explain to people how to get to the next step, how to increase their credit. And then we also do partner with some nonprofit organizations and maybe in a more formal way offer some financial literacy classes.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, I'm trying to think how I want to word this question. So, because you kind of alluded to it with the partnerships in the community, and we've talked a little bit already about, that the credit union being local is very rooted in the community, but maybe expand on that a little bit about how we are able to have some of those partnerships because of our locality and our commitment to our members in ways that maybe other financial institutions just don't even think about.
Yeah, so to me, some deep, authentic relationships with nonprofit partners is something that sets First Alliance apart. And what that might look like, my dream is that we are able to effectively bank the clients of the nonprofit agencies that we're partnering with, so that it's not just a one-off or a transactional relationship, like, oh, here's our charitable gift, and then get a thank you note, move on. But it's really, how do we establish a deep relationship with that nonprofit, and how do we effectively bank their clients?
Right.
One example that comes to mind recently, we've established a relationship with CoNorth. CoNorth helps manufactured home facilities.
We'll cut it. Keep going.
Yeah, so one example that comes to mind of a nonprofit relationship is CoNorth. CoNorth is a nonprofit that helps manufactured home communities transition in cooperatively owned, so essentially resident-owned parks.
Yeah.
And with that relationship, we're able to offer loans to the park itself to help purchase from a legacy owner into a residential-owned facility. And then we'll also we usually will bank the cooperative as well, so they'll have their banking account, their checking account, their savings account with First Alliance. And then on top of that, the individual residents, we can, for instance, deploy our mobile bank into a community and effectively serve, our mobile branch, I should say, to effectively serve the clients or the residents, the owners of that park.
Yeah, so it's just it's a more holistic approach than just, a one-off kind of transactional or a one-off, opportunity. It's how can we partner for the benefit of both organizations and the client or our member, or, hopefully a combination of the two together, right, for the long term to really build up that financial wellness that we were just talking about long term.
Yeah, really want to be known as that trusted advisor and as that authentic relationship, that deep partnership. I think it's so important.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to kind of transition topics just a little bit here, and I want to talk kind of what are maybe some of the myths or misconceptions that people still have about credit unions. I mean, when you talk, if you know anything about credit unions, they started, back in the Great Depression, and for a lot of organizations that was like 90 years ago, and so some of those misconceptions about what credit unions are, who they can help, how they can be a modern financial institution are still kind of linger for people. So maybe dispel some of those.
I think the biggest one that comes to mind is the biggest misconception, credit union. There's an association with the word union, and that also goes back to our history of serving an employer. A lot of credit unions were founded to serve one employer. So for instance, First Alliance, a teacher got a loan from a pool of 7 firefighters, and that's what started First Alliance in the 1930s. And so our first employer group was the municipal employees, whether that's the Rochester school system or the Rochester Fire Department, government employees. And so there's still that some credit unions were actually started by unions to serve the members of the trade associations. And there's still that misconception because of our history of serving single employer groups that I need to be employed by a certain organization in order to gain access to credit unions. Yeah. And that's we've in the end of the 1990s, beginning of the 2000s, we now have community charters so that our group of community members can now have access to credit unions based on where you live, work, worship, or go to school.
Yeah, no, I think that's great to kind of explain that, because to your point, and there are still many credit unions who do serve solely single organizations or single groups of people, but it is much more common now that they serve a much broader audience of people. We are getting close to time, so I have one last question for you. If somebody who's listening to this is currently frustrated with their existing financial institution and they're considering a credit union, why it might now be the perfect time to make that leap and go to a credit union, whether it's First Alliance Credit Union, which we hope it is, or not. 100%. Maybe you don't live in the area and you're listening to this and learning about credit unions. Why is a credit union a good choice for someone?
To me, it just goes back to wanting to do business with a values-driven organization. That is so common today. People wanting to do business with organizations, with companies, with businesses that give back, that have that social cause. And where you bank matters, where you put your money matters. And I think so often there's that friction in switching accounts. And oftentimes your first bank account was probably wherever your parents banked. Mm-hmm. And it might have taken you a while to transition your account elsewhere. Yeah. I still hear the story of, I've had this account at this institution, whether it's a bank or credit unions, since I was a child. Yeah. But now I think so many people wanting to do business with organizations that care, now's a perfect time to switch to a credit union to do business with an organization that has, for instance, the cooperative principles and values as its guiding light, which really talks about giving back to the community and those social goals.
Amazing. Well, thank you again, Brent, for being here and taking time. This was really good. I hope that our listeners learned something new, either about credit unions or even about First Alliance. It's been great having you. This has been Good Money Moves, so thank you so much for joining us, and make sure that you like and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And until next time, stay financially empowered.